Hi friends, today I would like to discuss with you one of the important and significant topic of law, section 11 of the Civil Procedure Code, which speaks about res judicata. We know that many of the times those lawyers who are practicing at civil side, always the defendant or advocate of the defendant, they take a ground that the suit filed by the plaintiff is barred by law of this res judicata. Sometimes they take a ground in their written reply or WS that the present suit filed by the plaintiff is barred by virtue of section 11 of the CPC because the issue is decided by the court. So we often hear res judicata, etc. This term has two words, res and judicata, which means res means subject matter and judicata means decided. Therefore, once the matter or suit or any issue has been adjudicated upon or decided by the court having jurisdiction to decide the case, the same party then should not come to the court, they should not relitigate, they should not reopen the case, they should not file the case once again before the same court or any other court in India, because there has to be finality to every judgment or order of the court. This only says, res judicata only says that once the issue has been directly and substantially decided by the court having jurisdiction, then the same party should not file the case under their own name or through their representative under the same title before the same court or before any other court having jurisdiction under the same title, claiming the same relief, because it bars them to file the case. They are not allowed to open or reopen the topic once again because the issues have been settled, decided or adjudicated upon by the court, and court is also competent one. Therefore, what section 11 of the CPC says, that this is most important to know. I am going to read the section, what section 11 of the CPC says. Section 11 says that no court shall try any suit or issue in which the matter has been directly and substantially in issue in a former suit between the same parties and has been heard and finally decided by competent court. Therefore, we have to know many things related to this, and what are the ingredients, when the principle of res judicata is applicable, when the principle of res judicata is not applicable, and what are the case laws and what are the exception to this principle. The logic and philosophy behind this res judicata or principle of res judicata is that because there are only three reasons or logic behind this. Number one, that there has to be finality to the every judgment or order passed by the court, because once the court has passed the order or judgment, then once again the same court should not decide the same issue, otherwise it will be senseless to decide the same case number of times. Therefore, there has to be finality to every judgment or order passed by the court. Second principle, no man can be vexed or harassed or troubled twice for the same conduct. Therefore, this is also principle, that this is also one of the reason of this res judicata. And third one, the decision of the court must be respected, because once the court has passed the order, that has to be given respect. Otherwise, what will happen, suppose plaintiff has filed the case against the defendant today, then the decision will be passed, order will be passed, either the suit will be allowed, decreed, or it will be dismissed or rejected, etc. And then if aggrieved party once again will file the case, then other party will file the case before the same court. This is illogical. Therefore, the reason behind this principle is that there has to be finality to every judgment or order of the court, and we have to give respect to the order of the court or judgment, and the same party should not be vexed twice or harassed twice for a single cause of action. Now we know that there are a number of kinds of civil suit which can be filed in the court. Suit for title, number 2, suit for possession, number 3, suit for compensation, number 4, suit for injunction, suit for declaration, suit for claiming claiming title based on the adverse possession, etc. So number of kinds of suits can be filed in the court of law. Therefore, it is very much important to know the concept of res judicata. We know the reasons or object behind applying this principle. Similarly, the same principle is not only applicable in these civil cases, because the principle of res judicata is not only applicable in the cases of civil, but it is also applicable in case of the others. Like the same principle is derived in the criminal jurisprudence also, which is under the name of double jeopardy. For example, if X person has committed offense of, for example, theft, and he has been tried, either acquitted or convicted, then the state cannot once again file case against him, cannot try the case once again against the same person for the same cause, because man cannot be tried or punished twice for the same conduct. Once he has been tried and the result of the trial is either acquitted or convicted, then that is the finality there has to be finality to that. Therefore, he cannot be tried. So that is called principle of double jeopardy, and that is also constitutional right of the accused. Likewise, in case of the CPC, section 11 provides res judicata. Now we have gone through the definition of the res judicata under section 11 of the CPC, but what are the ingredients of the same, which we have to look into, because the ingredients are very much important and we have to analyze these sections. Ingredients, sorry. Now the first ingredient is that there must be two suits: former suit, previously decided, and present or subsequent suit. For example, I have filed the suit against my friend Rajeshwar in Mumbai court, and I am the plaintiff. I am claiming the title in respect of the property. Then the suit has already been decided by the court and decreed by the court has decreed the same. Then I got the possession of the property and I am declared as owner of the property. Then Rajesh cannot go once again and he cannot file a case because he was a defendant in the earlier case. Then my friend Rajesh cannot file the case for claiming ownership of the property before the same court, that he should be declared as owner of the property. That means he is barred. He cannot relitigate, he cannot reopen, and he cannot file the civil suit for title in respect of that property of which the issue has already been decided by the court. Therefore, he can only file appeal against the order. Therefore, appeal is nothing but continuation of the proceedings. It is extension of the proceedings. It is before the appropriate forum, next appellate forum, etc. However, appeal or revision is continuation of the suit, but it is not the filing of the same suit for the same cause. Therefore, the aggrieved person cannot file the said suit, or he cannot reopen the same issue before the same court or any other court having jurisdiction, because there has to be finality. Likewise, the duty is also casted on the court, because section 11 says that the wording is very much important. No court shall try any suit or issue in which the matter has been directly and substantially an issue in a former suit between the same parties and has been heard and finally decided by the competent court. Means it begins with the wording no court shall try. Means there is also duty casted on the court not to try the suit at all. Therefore, once the case has been decided between the parties. For example, I have filed the suit against my friend Rajesh and the court has decided and given me the property and I am declared as the owner of the property and suit is decreed. Now he is not allowed, being a defendant. Now he cannot file a same suit before the same court because he cannot become a plaintiff. However, duty is also costed on the court that court shall not try if he files or happens to file a case of suit for title in respect of the same property against me, then court shall not try the case. It is mandatory direction given under this section 11 to the court that court shall not try the suit or issue. Therefore, once the court comes to know, then court will not try. The fact that the suit has already been decided, the issue has already been decided by the competent court, and there is a judgment or order of the court. Either the same judgment will be given by me because I won the case, or court will come to know. In that case, court will not try the case. Court shall not try the case. That is the duty casted on the court. Now, therefore, there are two suits. One has already been decided by the competent court, that is called farmer suit, and the second suit is pending in the court having jurisdiction, and the present case or suit is called present suit or subsequent suit. So there are two suits, and first suit has already been decided. Issue or suit has been decided in the former case by the competent court. Number two elements, the parties of the former suit and subsequent suit are same. Suppose X and Y were the parties in the earlier suit and they have filed the case in respect of title of the property, plot number 100 in sector 100 of Vashi, for example, New Mumbai. Then the case has been decided. Now the same party X and Y cannot file, X or Y cannot file the same case or similar case claiming the same relief before the same court in respect of the same property. Therefore, the parties of the former suit and parties of the present suit or subsequent suit should be same. Then and then only principle of res judicata will apply. Principle of res judicata says that it bars the court from trying the case, adjudicating the case. This court cannot adjudicate the case. There is bar put by this statute. Therefore, court has to obey these provisions, and court cannot try the suit. However, it is said that is also one of the elements that both the parties in both the matter must be same. For example, X and Y, they have filed the case in respect of the property and the court has decided the case. Thereafter, the same party cannot file another suit. If filed, then court cannot try the case because it is res judicata, and obviously defendant will say that the earlier court has decided the case. However, if the parties are different, for example, C has filed the case against the A. Earlier the case was between A and B. Now C has filed the case against A. Then it will not become a res judicata because the parties in the present case or subsequent case are different. Because to attract the provision of res judicata, the parties in the former suit and the parties of the subsequent suit or present suit must be same. Then and then only the principle of res judicata will apply. Now, third element, the subject matter must be same in the former suit and subsequent suit. It must be identical. It must be directly. It must be. See, I'm reading the provision. Matter is directly and substantially in issue will operate as a res judicata in the subsequent suit. So the subject matter must be same. For example, if the plaintiff in a earlier suit was claiming suit for title in respect of plot number 100 in sector 100 of the Vashi, and the same relief he is claiming or defendant is claiming in the second suit before the same court or any other court, that he in subsequent suit he is also claiming, or defendant is claiming the ownership, suit for title in respect of plot number 100 in sector 100 of the Vashi, then it becomes res judicata. Because why? The earlier suit has already been decided and the subject matter of the previous suit and that is former suit and the present suit or subsequent suit is same. Therefore, if the subject matter is same, then it becomes res judicata. However, in earlier case, there was a dispute between X and Y. The court has decided the same in respect of plot number 100. Whereas now the A and Mr. A has filed the case against Mr. X. Then the parties are different, therefore it cannot become a res judicata. Or earlier, for example, I would like to give another example. If there was a dispute between A and B in respect of plot number 100, the case has been decided by the competent court. Then later on, A has filed the case against B in respect of another property. That is altogether different property which was not subject matter of the earlier suit. In that case, it will not be a res judicata because the subject matter or the relief claimed in the prayer is different, altogether different than the earlier suit. In that case, it will not be a res judicata. Hope that you have understood this. Because the properties are different in two cases, therefore it cannot become a res judicata. Now, another element or ingredient of section 11 is that case must be heard and finally decided by between the parties by the court. The case must have been finally adjudicated upon or decided by the court. For example, if the case is withdrawn by one party or compromised by the party, or there is a misjoinder or non-joinder, or there is cause of action and the case has been rejected. In that case, it cannot be said that the earlier case has been decided. It cannot be said that the earlier case has been finally decided because there has to be a trial. If trial is conducted, then only, and the case has been finally decided, heard and finally decided by the court, then only it can be said that there is a res judicata. That is one of the principle. Because meanwhile, sometimes it happens that the plaintiff may withdraw the case, or there is a compromise between the plaintiff and the defendant. They may withdraw the case, or they may file the consent terms, or suit is dismissed on the ground of cause of action, etc. Then there cannot be res judicata, and then the party can once again file the case before the court. That the competent court, the earlier suit decided by the court, former suit decided by the court, that court must be competent one. Competent means that court should have jurisdiction to decide the case. If the earlier court was not having the jurisdiction, then certainly it cannot become a res judicata because the earlier court was not having competency to decide the case, because the court was not having jurisdiction. Therefore, the order passed by that court is not valid, because according to the provision of CPC, once the court who does not have jurisdiction to decide the case and passes the order, such an order is nullity or non-est. It has zero value in the eye of law. Therefore, the former court or court which has decided the former suit must have jurisdiction to attract the provision of this res judicata. And finally, sixth element, the parties in a former suit and subsequent suit must have litigated under the same title. So they must have litigated under the same title so as to attract the provision of res judicata. So these are the essential element or ingredient of section 11 which we have focused. Once again, I am going to read in a nutshell that there must be two suits. One is former suit and previously decided suit. Former suit is decided and previously subsequent suit is also pending. And it is between the same parties, that the parties of the subsequent suit and the party of the previous former suits are same, and subject matter between the same party is same. They are claiming relief, same relief or similar relief. And the case has been finally decided by the competent court. Earlier case has been decided by the competent court. And parties in the former suit and subsequent suit must have litigated under the same title. If the ingredients are complied with, then it becomes res judicata. Once it becomes res judicata, then it is duty casted on the court not to try the case. Defendant will take a ground that the case has been decided by the earlier court. Therefore, upon showing this fact to the court or bringing this fact to the notice of the court, court will not try the subsequent suit, and court will pass the decree of res judicata, and court will dispose of the matter. Because the aggrieved party is allowed to go, and aggrieved party can file appeal or revision, whatever is applicable to him. However, subsequent court cannot try the suit. It is barred by law. Now there is also principle, because other things are also important related to this, which I am going to discuss with you. Constructive res judicata. What is constructive res judicata? Because that is also important. It says that plaintiff, suppose 5 grounds are available to the plaintiff, but the plaintiff has taken only 1 ground or 2 grounds, but has not taken some of the grounds or remaining grounds in his plaint in former suit, and this former suit has been decided by the competent court. Then later on he files the case in the same court or any other court having jurisdiction, saying that earlier I have not taken these grounds, earlier I have not filed the suit on these grounds, now I am filing the suit on this ground. Then he is not allowed to do so. That is called constructive res judicata, because whatever the grounds were available to him, he could have recourse to that. He could have taken the same all grounds in the plaint. Therefore, he cannot, under the name that he has not taken that ground earlier, he is not allowed to file the case once again. Otherwise, what will happen? He will file the cases many times. First time he will say that I have not taken X ground. Second time he will say that I have not taken Y ground, etc. So this is called, he is prevented from that. This is called constructive res judicata. Whatever grounds are available to him, he should, or she should take this all grounds in the suit. Now there are some case laws which I am also going to discuss. Whether this principle of res judicata is applicable in case of writ petitions. The Honorable Supreme Court in Daryao versus State of Uttar Pradesh decided that, and Honorable Court has said that the principle of res judicata is also applicable in writ petitions under Article 226 or 227 or before even 32 of the Supreme Court. Because why? Once the matter has been decided, adjudicated upon, completely decided by the court, and the court has adjudicated upon the matter on merits and heard the matters, thereafter the parties cannot file the same case before the same court or any other court having jurisdiction. Because the reason is that the case has been adjudicated upon. Therefore, this principle of res judicata is also applicable in case of writ petitions. For example, X person files the writ petition before the Honorable High Court of Bombay against Y, claiming certain rights against the government. Thereafter, either the case writ petition has been dismissed, then he cannot file the writ petition once again before the same court, or even he cannot file a writ petition under Article 32 before the Honorable Supreme Court. However, he can file special leave petition, that is like an appeal, continuation of the, like whereas in case of civil suit, once the suit is dismissed, then the party can file an appeal. Therefore, the principle of res judicata is also applicable in case of writ petitions. This principle of res judicata is also applicable in case of criminal cases, that is called double jeopardy. The same principle is, however, it is not known as a res judicata, but it is known as a principle of double jeopardy. Similarly, in case of tribunals, in case of Execution proceedings also the principle of res judicata is applicable. In case of arbitration proceedings, in case of income tax and sales tax proceedings, the principle of res judicata is applicable. Because even execution also, arbitration petition also, arbitration proceeding also, if the case has been decided, adjudicated upon by the presiding officer, then once again the case cannot be filed against the same person claiming the same relief, because there has to be finality to every judgment or order of the court or presiding officer. Now, when the principle of res judicata is not applicable, there are some situations when the principle of res judicata is not applicable. Number one, if fraud or collusion is there between the parties and judgment or order of the court is obtained by fraud or by playing collusion, in that case the judgment is non-ist, it is nullity, because it is obtained by way of playing fraud. Therefore, once either party has filed the suit, subsequent suit, and party has taken a ground, plaintiff has taken a ground that the earlier suit was filed by the defendant and he obtained the order by playing fraud with the court. If he establishes the same thing, collusion or fraud, if he establishes the fraud, then the principle of res judicata is not applicable. Then court can hear the subsequent suit, because the principle of res judicata is not applicable here, as the party has established that the earlier order was obtained by the party by playing fraud. Likewise, to interlocutory order, the principle of res judicata is not applicable, because interlocutory orders are interim orders in a nature that can be changed subsequently. These are not final orders. Therefore, the principle of res judicata is not applicable to interlocutory orders. And if it is established by the party that the earlier court which has decided the former case was not having jurisdiction, in that case also the order passed by the court in former suit, if not having the jurisdiction, then obviously subsequent suit can be entertained by the court where subsequent suit is filed or second suit is filed, because the earlier court was not having jurisdiction or not competent. Therefore, the principle of res judicata is not applicable. Now, if the party says that the opponent party has obtained the order or judgment of the court by playing fraud, then the burden of proof is on the party who alleges or make allegations of such a manner, such a nature. The party who make allegations that the order has been obtained by Y or his defendant, then the party who makes allegation has to prove, burden of proving is upon him. He has to establish that the order is obtained by playing fraud. In that case, section 44 of the Indian Evidence Act is also applicable, which says that fraud or collusion in obtaining judgment or incompetency of court may be proved. Any party to a suit or other proceeding may show that any judgment or order, decree which is relevant under section 40, 41, 42, which has been proved by the adverse party was delivered by court not competent to deliver it, or was obtained by fraud or collusion. Therefore, section 44 is also applicable of the Indian Evidence Act. The party has to show that the other party has obtained the order by playing fraud or collusion, or the court was not having jurisdiction. The burden is on that party. Now, court means what? Which court? According for the purpose of section 11 of the CPC, the court means any court established in India and any court established outside the India with the authority of the central government of India. Even if the court is established out of the India, like in America or Australia, but with the authority of the central government of India, then such a court is also Indian court, and that court is also competent. For example, if the suit is filed between X and Y in respect of property at Mumbai, then order is passed by the court, case has been decided by the honorable court, then aggrieved party has filed the suit in a case of in a court of America, and that court is established by the authority of the Indian government. Still, the principle of res judicata is applicable because that court, though established outside of India, but with the authority of central government of India, therefore it is Indian court. It is not foreign court. Therefore, the principle of res judicata is applicable there also. And foreign court means such a court which is not established by the authority of Indian government is foreign court. One more important aspect which I would like to discuss here, the farmer suit, because section 11 of the CP says that once the case has been decided, issues has been decided, or farmer suit has been decided by the court having competent jurisdiction, then subsequent court should not try the subsequent suit. Now, what is meant by farmer suit? Farmer suit means the suit which has been decided first. For example, there are two suits filed in two different courts. Like, for example, sometime it may happen that the property is located at two different places at the border of the two districts. Or the jurisdiction is concurrent. For example, X district and Y district, and the property is located at the border of both the districts. Then both court will have jurisdiction. And suppose both the party have filed different cases in different courts, because both the courts have jurisdiction. In that case, first case is filed in 2018 and the second case is filed in 2019. However, the second case which is filed in 2019 has been within 1 year, that is 2020. Then this case will become farmer suit, because date of filing of the suit is not important, but the date of deciding of the case is important. Hence, the farmer suit is a suit which has been decided first, irrespective of the fact which case has been filed. Even if it is filed late, but however it has been decided first. Therefore, the case which has been decided first will become farmer suit. Now, once again, we are going to summarize what section 11 of the CPC says. That it says the res judicata. It lies under three principles: that there has to be finality to every judgment of the court or order. Second, the order or judgment of the court has to be respected. Number three, that the party or defendant should not be vexed or troubled twice for single cause of action. And the purpose behind this res judicata is that to avoid the multiplicity of the proceedings, to avoid the contradictory orders. For example, if case can be decided by the court number of times, then number of orders will be passed. For example, the same court will pass one order, thereafter other party will file the case before the same court, then the same court will pass another order. Therefore, different orders will be passed, and therefore there will be contradictions in the orders. To avoid such a contradictions of the orders and to avoid the multiplicity of the proceedings, this principle is established and put in the section 11 of the CPC. So this is the reason in object of providing this principle of res judicata, that the court should not try the suit and the parties are not allowed to reopen the same issues which has been substantially and directly and substantially decided by the court having jurisdiction. Then the same party shall not file the case against the same before the same court or any other court, as the case has been finally decided by the court. Farmer suit has been decided by the court having jurisdiction. Means it puts a bar on the court. This law puts bar on the right of the court to proceed with try the case. And it also puts bar on the parties to not to open the case once again, not to file the case once again, not to relitigate once again. Another question came to my mind that we have already gone through, or we have already studied, that if the farmer suit is decided by the court having no jurisdiction, then it cannot become a res judicata, because earlier court which has decided the farmer suit should have jurisdiction. If the earlier court was not having jurisdiction, then obviously subsequent suit can be decided by the subsequent court, because earlier court was not having jurisdiction. However, suppose the earlier court was having jurisdiction, now second court is also having jurisdiction. Now the parties are playing collusion. It cannot happen generally in practical, it cannot happen. But in second time also the parties are playing collusion or disclosing the fact to the court, and they are also obtaining the orders. Now suppose there are two orders of the two competent courts, different court, because section 11 prohibits the court from trying the suit. However, suppose second court has also tried the suit. Just imagine second court has also passed the order, then what will happen? Because there are two judgments, judgment given by the earlier court and now the judgment given by the subsequent court, then what will happen? The answer is that it is duty casted on the person who files the case to reveal whether he has to plead in his pleading that whether he has filed any case related to this issue earlier, whether the same has been, whether he has got the order or not, etc., whether any case is pending in respect of the same issue or not, he has to plead. If he has not plead, then it cannot be said that he is coming to the court with a clean hand and heart. Everyone who wants to get the justice, every party should come with a clean hand and heart to the court. Otherwise, suppressing the material fact from the court is like a playing fraud on the court. Therefore, in this case, the parties have played fraud against the subsequent court, second court, and they also obtained the order. In that case, the order obtained at second time will be nullity or non-ist. Therefore, the earlier order passed by the former court will be valid only. However, this rarely happen. It doesn't happen because once the party won the case, suppose I have filed the case against my friend, I won the case, then if he files the case, definitely it is my duty to show to the court in subsequent case that I have already won the case, this is the order. Because according to section 41 and 40 and 44 of the Indian Evidence Act, the judgment passed in the earlier cases becomes relevant. Hope that we have covered the provisions and I have tried my level best to express. And one more, sorry for that. In case of special leave petitions, there is a judgment of Kunia Muhammad versus State of Kerala. Now we know that once the writ petition has been filed by the party and the same has been decided by the court, Honorable High Court, either dismissed or allowed, then the party cannot go because it becomes res judicata. Only party can file special leave petitions. However, the parties are not allowed to file writ petition once again. Suppose the party has filed special leave petition before the Honorable Supreme Court against the order of the writ petition, against the order of the Honorable High Court, then in that case, the Honorable Supreme Court has not touched the issue, has not adjudicated upon the matter and dismissed in limine or at threshold without going into the merit of the matter. Only simply dismiss the Honorable Supreme Court has only simply dismissed the case without going into the merit of the matter. In such cases, the said party once again can file a review petition before the concerned High Court. Though the Honorable Supreme Court has dismissed the SLP because the Honorable Supreme Court has not gone into the merit of the matter, has not passed the reasoned order. It is just dismissed in limine or simply dismissed, because it cannot be said that the court has passed the order adjudicated upon the case. Hence, the option of review is also available to the party and the review can be filed before the concerned High Court. That is laid down in the Honorable, there are so many judgments, but famous judgment is Kunia Muhammad versus State of Kerala. Because this is, see the reasoning in this, it said that because the principle of res judicata says that the first former suit must have been decided by the court and must have been finally adjudicated upon. Here in this case, though the principle of res judicata is applicable in case of writ petitions, but the Honorable Supreme Court has not decided the SLP on merit and the court has not gone into the merit of the matter, only simply dismissed. Therefore, the option of review is available to the party before the concerned High Court. Therefore, it cannot be said that the matter was finally decided by the Supreme Court, as the Supreme Court has not gone into the merit of the matters. Hope that we have covered many things, as the subject was very tedious, and because many things are there related to this which we have to analyze minutely, and hope that you have enjoyed my lecture, and hope that I have tried my level best to make you understand. Thanks.